Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. We are back in the garage today where we are going to be adding a vapor barrier to the wall we insulated in a previous video. So the insulation is great, but we need to add the barrier in order to get that thermal break and to stop the cold from coming in or stop the heat from coming in, whichever one we want, depending on the season. So that's what we're going to do today. So we accomplished this by adding what's called a 6 mil poly, and that's the thickness of the plastic. And in the area here, our codes calls for a CGSB rated poly, which is the Canadian General Standards Board, and it's the approved thickness and the approved material to properly vapor barrier wall. So make sure in your neighborhood you check on the code to make sure you have the right material to do this type of project. Here's a roll of poly. Normally comes clear, but they also make it in white. And for some commercial applications, it's made black as well. I just happen to have a roll of this white stuff left over from a couple previous renos. So we're going to use this up. Basically, this came out for homeowners so that when a basement was insulated and vapor barriered or a garage was done, you wouldn't see the insulation and the studs. It covers it up. I like it because it serves a purpose, but it also brightens up the space. So we have it, we're going to use it. This is what it looks like. All right, so this is a real straightforward job. Basically it gets hung and stapled in place. Because this is a fully insulated garage / shop, we're going to be going one step further. We're going to be adding an acoustical sealant to the top plate and the bottom plate and the end studs, just to fully seal this wall. And that's going to again help us achieve that thermal break that we're looking for. So this is basically cut, stretched out, and stapled in place, and we're sealing it up, and that's kind of all there is to it. Okay guys, as always, this is a straightforward job. We don't need many tools, but here's what we do need. We got our H1, our trusty Olfa knife here. You need a staple gun, such as this. It's a T50 staples. I like to use 3/8, but I got 5/16 in the shop, so we're going to use those up. An alternative to a staple gun, and a little bit easier in my opinion, is what's called a tacker or a hammer tacker. So you swing it like a hammer, and it just makes it easier to work, to use your hands to work with this stuff instead of having this trigger mechanism. I mentioned we're going to seal up the plates and the end studs. We got some acoustical sealant in order to do that. We're going to throw some gloves on because this stuff's messy to work with. And lastly, we got some tuck tape, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. So I've used red tuck tape in the past, and red is designed for the house wrap, the Tyvek house wrap, or any sort of competitor's house wrap. It works really well. But there's this blue tuck tape, and this is actually designed for a vapor barrier, for that thermal break. It seals up your seams. So the other thing I'll mention about this is it's got some extra adhesion. It's really sticky stuff. Once you put it on your joints, it's not coming off. So we're going to use the blue tuck tape. I prefer it for this application, and I'll be using it for a vapor barrier application going forward. Let's talk about our poly. It comes in a typical roll like this. Now this roll is 5 feet long, but don't let it fool you. It comes folded in half. So a typical roll of poly is actually 10 feet in length, which is designed to give you some play on the top of your wall and some extra on the bottom of your wall. So you unroll it and you unfold it at the same time. This is typically how it comes. This is how you buy it. In our case here, we've got a 6-inch curb and we've got a 10-foot high wall. So I'm not going to have anything left over on the top or the bottom, but it's going to tuck really nicely behind our drywall, and we're sealing it up anyway. So in our case, it doesn't matter. But this is typically what you get when you grab a roll of poly. So one last thing I'll mention, we're not going to worry about dealing with our spray foam on the window today, but but we are gonna cut out and staple the opening. We'll go through that, and we got a couple different things to deal with here. We have our boots around our outlet, our gang boxes. I'll show you how to cut that out and deal with that. So we got 2 of these boots to deal with. And like I mentioned, we got to deal with our window opening and how to properly cut that and secure the poly around our window framing here. Okay, we're going to start in the corner like you typically would. We've got our tacker, we got our poly. I've got a wrap around here, and it's a short wall, about 14 inches. So we're going to try and capture that in one piece so I don't have to tape a corner. So first step, grab your roll, throw it in the corner. I'm going to unroll a little bit of it here, and I'm just going to loosely go around the corner with my material. And I'm just going to tack this up here. Make sure it looks somewhat straight. Now, I will loosely roll this out. I'm just trying to get an idea of a length here. So I'll mention, if you're doing this on your own like I am, it helps to have a couple extra sets of hands, but you don't necessarily need it. So stretch out your poly, tack it up in a couple spots, and you're just trying to get an idea whether we have enough material here. Looks good. When we cut the roll, we're going to leave ourselves some extra material, just so that we're not going to be short. I like to cut this from the back against the roll itself, and then you can just follow the roll down, and it ends up being relatively straight, just like that. Okay, so we've got our poly loosely tacked up just to make sure we got enough of a length here. Now we're going to unfold it. Okay, we've left ourselves some excess material in the corner here. Little tip, guys, I stapled up a chunk of cardboard there with about 6 staples in it, and that is not going anywhere. So I need to be able to stretch this poly out. So when I get up here and I tug on this to get it nice and tight, that is very strong. It's going to enable me to stretch this out as we go. I'm going to start securing it up along the top plate, but I'm going to do it about 6 inches down from that top plate. Trickier to work in a garage where you've got some obstructions such as overhead door mechanisms and whatnot. So what we've done is we've got it stretched out, we've got it leveled out where we want it, we stapled it about 6 inches down from the top, all along the top of the wall. Definitely trickier working with a 10-foot wall, and definitely trickier working with obstructions, but this is kind of the starting point. Notice how it's laying loose. It's fairly level. It does not have to be perfect, but I want the top plate covered and I want the bottom plate covered. Okay, we're ready to start off with our acoustical sealant. And what we're going to do is we're going to be putting sealant all along the top plate, down the side studs, and all along the bottom plate. So we got our top plate all sealed up, everything's stapled. Now what we're going to do, we're going to start stretching the poly across the wall. So I'm going to add some sealer on this stud down the right hand side here, and then we're going to start stapling and working our way down. I'm hitting every other stud here because we are going to add drywall to this wall, so it doesn't need to be stapled every 12 inches. You don't have to go crazy because the drywall is going to hold this in place anyway. Okay, so we're going to keep working back to our corner on the left hand side there. Now we're going to run a bead along the bottom plate and get that sealed, create our thermal break, add the staples. We're going to wrap up in that corner over there. We sealed up our bottom plate, and now we're going to put a few staples in just to hold it in place. Spacing on the poly is perfect. Guys, just wrapping up our last corner. One thing I'll point out with the corner, you want to leave everything loose in the corner. Make sure there's some room. One way to do this is to fold the plastic and leave a fold in the corner, but this is nice and loose as it sits, because as I put my board on here, my drywall, I don't want to be tearing the poly. All right, lose the gloves. We're done with that stuff. Messy. We've got our window to deal with, and we've got a couple of outlets. So let's start with one of the outlets. We got our boot behind here, so basically what you want to do, and we've left the plate on, we've got a little bit of visibility here. We want to make an X from one corner of the plate to the other, just like so, and open this up. Put the knife down so you don't chop your fingers off. What you're going to do is you're going to reach in behind and you're going to pull this boot out and around the poly, tuck it all in. And now you've got your boot on top of the poly. So once you got your boot on top of your poly, grab your blue tuck tape we talked about earlier, and we're going to tape this seam all the way around the boot on the outlet. Make a neat job of this, because even though I'm covering it up, if you're not covering it up with drywall, you know, take your time. There's no sense in being quick and sloppy with it. So there you go. So now we've got our boot sealed to our vapor barrier. We've got our thermal break. The outlet is no longer going to be a cold spot in the wall. So same thing when you're going to tackle the window. Start in the corner, make an X through the poly from one corner to the other. All right, now I've got a bunch of leftover material, so what do we do here? Well, what I like to do is fold it up over the framing, cut a nice straight line, pull off your excess and do this all the way around the window. Once you get all your excess cut off, wrap your pulp around your framing and just fire a couple staples to hold it down. So we still got access to do our spray foam on the window. We got a bit of vapor barrier sealing this up. Also, for our return board here to go in against the window, we got this covered up so it's not laid on raw wood there. And I will mention that what I needed to do was put some Acoust-Seal around the window as well. So what I'll do is I'll pull this back, add the sealant, and I'll staple it back up. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps it up. We've got both our outlet boots taped off, we got the window done, all the studs and plates are sealed up, so we got a thermal break here. The last thing I gotta do is walk around little bits of tape just like this and cover up the spots where I pulled on the vapor barrier and I got a couple staples pulled out of it so it ripped it a bit. So we'll seal that up with tuck tape, make sure we're all done, and we've got a sealed up wall. So hey guys, I hope that helps some of you. It's not too hard to do the job by yourself. You do got to tack it up in a few spots, have some patience and take your time. But we got this one done. We're pretty much ready for drywall. So again guys, if you like the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. We got more DIY stuff coming, and catch you guys in the next one. Take care.